Hey guys, it's Ben here from Second Dynasty. You can see from the gleam on my face that it's a warm one here in sunny Sweden. We're entering the summer weather. The Swedes are having a loving complaint about the 27-degree weather. Um, but it feels just like home to me. I've got with me on the line Zarma, of course. Say hello, Zarma.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
And John unfortunately will not be with us today, but in the background you may hear the mutterings, the insane mutterings of Albin. I'm, I didn't expect him to. He usually just talks to himself, not that. I don't know what that is. That makes me second.
Thinking of that cat lady in Simpsons.
Right. Yes. Do not throw cats at me, please. I'm a dog person.
That's
So, if you've not joined this channel before for some reason, and you've magically found it somewhere, my name's Ben. I have a company called Second Dynasty, and I make 3D printable spaceships at 28mm scale. And that's kind of what you're looking at the moment. You're looking at my program Maya, well, the program I use to create the objects. And the very complicated scene, which is currently my stretch goal scene for the Type S Scout slash Courier, which is an officially licensed ship from the Traveler universe. So, in about 2.5 weeks, we're, fingers crossed, thumbs crossed, we're going to be launching our first ever My Mini Factory crowdfunding campaign to get the Type S out to you guys. So, we have. Not got the prototype here with us today because it's actually down in the cellar with Mika, who is building a set. Anyone that follows my Instagram recently may have seen an image from that. I didn't know what to expect because Mika seemed a little bit stressed lately, and I thought, oh, geez, he hasn't had time to get this started. Oh, how's this going to work? I went down to the cellar, and he has built an enormous set. I described it to Mark Miller as the equivalent of 3 by 2 squares wide. So that would be about 3 meters by 4.5 meters. He's built this huge crater and a second scene beyond that, which is going to be the subterranean cavern from which the Type S will launch. So, yes, exciting times. I'm excited to get that filmed. We're hoping to film Tuesday and Wednesday night, depending on whether or not the Type S actually gets here, because it's currently stuck in England in the shipping hub, and it hasn't made its way to Sweden yet. So I'm not at all worried about that. But in any case, how's your week been, Zorima?
Well, my light kit made it.
It
Woo-hoo!
did. It did actually. You know what? Let's get a close up of my sweaty face and take a quick look at the light kit. It hasn't been installed right yet. But we have two sections, right? Leading off to, on one end, we have the navigation lights, and on the other end, we have a cluster of the engine lights. And then we have two AAA batteries, which is powering the whole thing, right?
Two AAA batteries.
Yes.
Just simple AAAs.
And then when we turn it on, the idea here was to get a lot of power. So I might close my eyes because it's quite blinding. You can see, which is exactly what we wanted, because we wanted it to be quite visible in daylight. So there are 8 engine lights, 4 on each engine.
And the navigation lights will blink.
Yes, well, you can kind of see them blinking there, especially the green one, right? So I'm very pleased with that. And that was the quickest shipping I've ever got from the United States to Sweden. I think it literally was almost overnight. So 2 days it took to get here. Because this came yesterday, I think? Yeah, yesterday. Because Albin wasn't in the office. It must have been yesterday. So, yeah. I guess you guys don't want to just look at my face all the time. John, as I said, couldn't be with us today. But
You should explain what John does, though.
yeah, John makes deck design, which is a cool little program that we've commissioned to help plan out building your ships. Because one thing that anyone who is familiar with my stuff knows is that it can be very confusing. The Type S itself has about 200 components, and whilst we will be making instructions for how to put it together, the idea with Deck Designer is that you could not only see what it looks like in 3D when it should be built, but also have instructions in the program, and also allow you to swap out pieces for stretch goals. For example, what you're seeing now, we're going to have variants with like these winglets on the side, alternative noses, for example. The Type J configuration, which is an extensive modification if we hit that stretch goal. Different engine types, so you could test this out in the Deck Designer software. Now the good news is John is actually ahead of schedule, so the next version of Deck Designer is going to be 1.0, meaning we finally reached all of the promised stuff. This featured in my last Kickstarter way back in that finished in October. So right now what he's working on is basically content. So we are going to have, I think we're going to make the 1.0 release a couple of days before we launch. We're going to have a free version of it, which is just a viewer, so you can see the Type S in WebGL. So you don't need to download anything; you can just watch it in your browser and play around with it. And then the already, if you have the Deck Designer beta from having backed in our last Kickstarter, for example, you can already preview the Type S. But we're hoping to add more content now, so that there's more variant ships, particularly the Delta and the Chimera stuff is going to be worked on in the coming weeks, and getting the Cerberus and the Sleipnir up to full spec, so that it can have proper instructions. There are a few things missing and whatnot. So yeah, Zorimo is the guy that's responsible for the lights, or rather the mastermind behind the lights, and then we have our distributor currently, which is US based. We are planning to have a separate page, so we'll have the campaign page, which will have a link to seconddynasty.com, my website, which will have the lights there. This is so that we can maintain that page and update it as necessary. Like, for example, if we're able to source the lighting kits in Europe or in Australia, for example, instead of the US, because shipping is a factor. I think the shipping's probably going to cost more than, well, not more than the light kits, but I mean the lights are very lightweight. But not everyone wants to pay $70 for expedited shipping that takes 2 days. So, and shipping from the US can be expensive for some people. So, the point being, it's going to be on a separate page. We did it this way because Aram and I both agreed that the way we did it last time was not incredibly practical, and it was easy to make mistakes. Here we're just going to make sure that you can link straight to the distributor, pay for the kit, and pay for the shipping, and just get it shipped to you straight away. Correct?
You'll know both at the same time when you pay.
Yes.
Everything will be paid up front, and you'll have the kit shipped out within a day or two right after you pay.
Yeah. So I have had a little bit of news too, if any of our actual commercial printers are with us today or are watching this video afterwards. I have spoken to Mark about this because specifically our license prohibits, it basically says that we're the sole holder of this kind of license over the travel license in the form that we have it, which has restricted the ability to give extend the non-commercial printing license you get when you pay for the STLs to being able to actually print them out and sell what you've printed. So he thinks it's as good a good idea to get things out to as many people as possible, and that it would be foolish to not consider the commercial printers that do print out Second Dynasty ships for resale. Keeping in mind that this is never huge scale manufacturing. Even if someone's got a massive print farm of 15 or 20 printers, it's still small scale compared to industrial stuff. We do have to keep it separate from our normal Patreon license. But the form that we've discussed is adding a commercial license as an add-on for the Type S, and everything else. It'll cover both the Type S and everything else that is covered in the Kickstarter, and the pricing is about $250 for a year. So there's an option if you want to go for it. But it's kind of like an upfront option, similar to what other, I guess.
He gave you the license on an upfront thing instead of a percentage thing. Okay.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we still pay royalties through that, but that's the way we easily pay those royalties, as opposed to like it would not work with my Patreon where people pay $25 on a monthly basis while they need the license, right? So
yeah, I understand.
So that's the way we can do it. Hopefully, that's amicable to the people who want to do it. I assume, though, it will be more attractive, and I think since he has agreed to that, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot, I'm sure, in the future by saying this, but I would like to maybe do a conversion for 15mm prints, and by that I mean larger pieces, integrate some of the doors into the walls so there's not these some of the issues that we've had when our test printers have tried to do it, for example, in resin. The ship would be about 34 centimeters instead of about 64 centimeters. And so the weight, too, will change from approximately 2.5 kilos. I think it's probably under 2.5 kilos, but to around 600 grams. So this would put it in the range where, you could potentially make resin versions of the ship in 15mm, which is also, an old standard for the Traveller universe. So they've in the past released 15mm miniatures, and of course you can downscale our miniatures to 15mm as well, but just keep in mind that the built-in supports that they have are designed for 28mm and up. So you would probably have to do the non-supported versions first, and then do the non-supported versions and then add your own supports to that. So that is a little bit of good news, I think.
It sounds good to me. 15mm and 28mm both.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, I'm not going to go through everything, but I know some of the challenges are like the top is not quite thick enough in resin. I think the main issue is like some of these walls where we have these cavities behind the walls. I know Albin will back me up. This space in here has actually led to a lot of warping with the doors. So I think what I'm just going to do is, like, I know it's not going to upset some people, but just have the doors built in. At that scale, you don't have a lot of room. Or we can just do versions of the room, one with door open, one with door closed, possibly. But essentially a simplified version.
The door open and door closed version makes sense.
I think so, but you would be switching out the whole room, and I don't know. Well, it seemed like you could still actually, in resin, have the slots that we have had, which I was surprised about. I did not think that would survive that at all. So yeah, you can see this scene is a little bit of a mess at the moment. I have my stretch goals page on hidden away. I don't quite want to show it off at the moment. I'm still trying to figure out all the numbers and everything to make it feel exciting, that we're actually got some movement. I am a little concerned looking at other crowdfunding campaigns on My Mini Factory that it is going to be a bit like Kickstarter, where we have a great first and last couple of days. So I am concerned that the stretch goals won't be released fast enough, but that's just one of those things you kind of got to accept.
Don't forget that in this crowdfunding, when it's not like Kickstarter where you have to wait for some kind of product to come out. When you do the crowdfunding, you're getting a product right away.
That is true, and that will probably also lead to either people being slightly more cautious about making purchases, or that they make that purchase up front. So it could affect things in a positive or a negative way. We're really not going to know until afterwards. So this week, I have been focusing on stretch goal stuff, and Albin has been focusing on rendering stuff. I can quickly show some of the rendering stuff. You know, these are kind of graphics that are going to be used for the crowdfunding page. So these are just being quickly thrown together. I was ordering some t-shirts too. Oh, by the way, guys, I almost put on the same shirt as the last 2 weeks for the stream, because I do have two of those from the animation festival that we had earlier in the year, and then I was just like, no. Ironically, to do that, I've worn the same shirt I wore yesterday. so yeah, there's some irony for you. But yeah, Alvin's made these nice renders. It's hard to tell unless we get really close. Oh shit, actually these are at the wrong scale. So the question is, do I have these at a higher scale? And I do. So you should just be able to see that he's got this nice shader on that's meant to simulate the banding of FDM printing. Just subtly, so it is a nicer, cleaner sort of render than the old style. You can see some artifacting here on the edges. That's basically just from where the parts are too thin and the shader doesn't quite cover it to the point that we would like. But you know, I'm very happy with the way these ended up looking. I've sent these to Mark. Mark very much enjoyed them. In fact, he said they're beautiful. So I think we got a seal of approval there. There's a few things we'll probably patch up beforehand. I realized afterwards that, you know, some of the sensors on the ship could probably use some glowing elements, or, you know, just to add a splash of color. But you can even see that Albin's been dutiful with the rendering environment that he's got. So we've got this nice pinkish reflection, so it's not just this static gray.
Austin's asking the question there, Ben.
All right. Have you talked to Mark about using your ships in future Traveller 5 products as official deck plans? Maybe a nice render would look great in an RPG book. No, we haven't had any discussions about that. I have heard that Mark has a project that he's working on, but anytime where I've brought it up, because we had talked about synergies related to when we launch, he has dodged the question, so I wonder if it maybe is taking a bit more time than anticipated. But we have not had that discussion at this point, and I think that would be something to approach a little bit more post-campaign, especially if we write up the stats for example, the Beta Centauri that we were talking about. Well, not talking about, that is included in the campaign as an add-on.
Not the stats. So we did the stats for that.
Yes, we do have the stats. I'm not happy with the formatting for the stats. We need to do more work on that, I think. But the basic stats, yeah, they're done. So Albin is continuing to do that. He's basically working on like adding a splash of color to the interior. Yep. So he's beavering away at that right now. Just as Mika was down in the cellar. Yeah, so we'll carry on doing a couple of things, but last we left the stretch goals, we were actually working, I wanted to show what we ended up with. We were working on a liquid container cargo item. So I was given some references by you guys, and this is what it kind of ended up as. So a fairly simplified idea, but this is meant to be just under 1.5 by 1.5 meters, right? And I've used this to iterate with the frames. We have a more standard cargo sort of looking one. We have the open top one. I did a 2 square one. We have, of course, some of the older cargo models that we've had in previous editions. Previous Kickstarters. I've done these canister ones for transporting, liquids, or rather, high pressure liquids, I guess. Would be the more correct term, like gas. Well, technically it's not gas until you get it out. Yeah. but yeah. The point
like
is,
hydrogen or helium.
Yeah, I haven't done all full scale cargo sizes yet because I wanted to stick to stuff that will actually fit in the very limited cargo bay of the Type S. So all of these smaller ones here that you can see are sort of more boxy will fit in the existing cargo hold, although you'll have to, orient these on their sides to do so. And then I was looking at the standard cargo crates, and they are quite simplistic. Here is going to be the base model. Let's see, maybe... I actually played some Traveler last night. We were playing the Cepheus Light system, which is, I guess, a rehash of Mongoose First Edition, is what my understanding of it is, and we had some fun. We're currently playing in the Spinwood Marches, and we left Flammarion, and we're heading to Waltzen. If anyone is a total traveler,
I know that adventure.
I don't. So, but anyway, apparently we're chasing a missing Type S. I wonder if that's going to become our hero ship, because we all mustered out without a ship.
You want to know what's horrible? It's exactly the same adventures I put my players through last week.
Well, there you go.
Not to reveal anything secret about it, or tell you the story, but yeah, they've sent him on a mission to go pick up a Type S ship that was left behind by a crew that abandoned it.
So yeah, apparently it's also like 92 years old, so I'm expecting it's going to be a great asset.
It's old and broken down at the moment.
Yeah. So I am playing a scout, actually, or a former scout, rather. So the Cepheus Light, you don't actually switch professions, and there's no education roles or anything like that to qualify for things. So it's just a straight 5-term tour, I think. Yeah, because we're like 30, 36, 38, something like that. Anyway, it was fun so far, but we only got to play for about 2.5 hours, so we didn't get that far. I think we just got to Walston now. Anyway, so I've been working on the cargo. And there was another one. Printing that in a clear resin.
I'll hear that for you later.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody does. We all want to hear it, right, guys? The stories of Ben's trials and tribulations as he works on the ship.
That's like a pet peeve for anyone that knows that there's perhaps a few less socially inclined people in the gaming industry, just or like that enjoy gaming. It's a natural thing. It's a great hobby. I love it. But yeah, one way to kill a mood is to start telling people about your role-playing character. So I'm not going to do that beyond just saying I'm playing a scout. Not going to fall into that trap. So yeah, even Albin's laughing. Traveler cargo doors should have iris doors. No, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That would take up too much space. That blasted summer flange. You cheeky bugger. I don't think we're going to do that. But what else have I been working on, aside from iterating on the cargo? And I kind of like... This is kind of like a digital sketchbook to me. I have gone back and added a lot more detail to the alternative fronts. Especially this like more Star Warsy type. I don't know if there are many people that are going to like these sort of sensors, but hey, it's an option. And it's going to be a free stretch goal. So, but the... I also did an airlock for the bottom section of the ship, and I'm considering how to do an airlock on the side. That's going to be a bit more challenging because I'll have to do both interior and exterior work. I mean, I did that there too, but it's a little bit easier to work on. But then I started working on partitions, because that's also an earlier stretch goal. So some people were saying, add some smaller versions of the rooms. But because of the way that these walls work and the roof slant, they do kind of have to be custom for each and every one. Awesome. At least one person likes that snub nose. We have I've done, this short of, normally this room comes out to here, and I've just started experimenting with doing, a kitchenette in one room so you can like repurpose this space. And that, yeah, we'll have a version which will be basically different room shapes, and a version which will be different room contents. And you can actually say I've started working on a triple bunk. We'll have a double bunk version as well. And what I'm thinking of here is there is a bit of wasted space here, and I'm thinking of doing a version of this where we orient the bed this way, and then this becomes storage or a refresher, perhaps. There are a couple of options that we could use. But yeah, so I'm probably going to continue with that today, I thought. If no one has any other suggestions. Oh, and I also made the rooms separate. It might not look like much, but previously this was just a flat inside, and now it's got, some wall paneling in case you want it as a standalone. The same goes for... I've only done this side so far, but there you've got your... that's your life support little room. I guess you guys haven't... I guess you've seen it close up before, actually. But yeah, so lots of smaller changes. Actual changes that are going to go into the finished production version too, like these tiles. You can see this odd-shaped one here is what they used to look like. Now I've just made them look like... You just get this little bit of floor paneling in. As you can see in this room, it just sort of makes it look a little bit more complete. And these floor panels look great when you actually print them out, because they print out vertically, not like horizontally. Like the parts are oriented the way that they are here, and you just end up with a lot more detail in those parts than you normally would. So actually all of the floor pieces, I recommend printing them like this these days to get the detail out of them.
Oh, I started redoing the profile, by the way.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need to update that.
Yeah, I started updating the profile for the newer version of Jira and retesting it. So I'm in the middle of doing that right now.
Okay, there's a question there about the ship's locker. The Type S has a ship's locker already. This is it. It's just a room. I don't have any details in it at the moment. But yeah, that would be where you maybe store suits and weapons and that sort of thing. The opposite side is a mail vault. But yeah, that's default in the Type S. And you're not going to see like the full finished parts in these. They're just going to be good enough to add renderings so you get a good impression of what it's going to look like. The same thing with the turrets. You can actually say I've got a bunch of measure tools here, because I did... actually, I can probably show that. Yeah, so I'm not going to show everything on this spreadsheet, but you can kind of see where the pricing's at. I think I might have showed this last week. So given where the Swedish crown is at the moment, I thought it would be cute if we put the prices in credits, but one imperial credit is $1. So, because these are still models, right? It's not the full ship. That seemed a little bit, wrong to put mega credits or something like that. But yeah, we have these different constellations here. So, basically, the thing to note is none of the light kits are there. They're separate from these things. I believe I mentioned that the all-in is basically your TAS membership. That is the Traveler Aid Society thing. It's a big thing in the game. Zoroma helped me confirm the titles for the pledge levels, which fit in with the Traveler universe. Usually you've got sectors that are ultimately have a figurehead in the form of an Archduke. So our highest pledge level, which will have basically every ship we've ever made, a lot, not quite everything we've ever made, but most of it as a part of that. But the big thing about that, yeah, it's a $500 pledge, but it also includes a commissioned miniature. by
They're real custom miniature, huh?
yes, like from scratch miniature. So
Wow.
that miniature will be included with everyone's pledge as a bonus, and those will be limited.
Who's
Uh,
doing the miniature?
Papsicles is doing them. I haven't yet talked to Andre or Flavor Pickle, but I'm pretty sure they'd be happy to do some as well. So it will be a maximum of 10, probably minimum of 6. We'll see. But yeah, and it'll happen over a longer period of time. But yeah, if you guys have your iconic traveler figure, you have a chance here to get them made, essentially. So hopefully that will be somewhat interesting to some people at least. That is quite a very heavily discounted thing, even though it is 500. So yeah. In any case, the other thing I wanted to draw attention to is I did some mathematics for rescaling and whatnot. I'm not sure the weight is quite spot on because I need to get the ship back to weigh it. But you can see here in the bold we have the 28 millimeter, which is the default version. It comes in at 1 to 59. I've done the exact maths for that since we know that 1 square is 1.5 meters. It's kind of easy to figure out the exact scale. But yeah, we have the measurements for how big it would be in everything from 15 mil to 35 mil. I wouldn't dare print it any bigger than 35 mil. As it is, it's going to be 80 centimeters long and 4 kilos. So basically almost a chimera in weight. That would be quite a big thing. Of course, you can do what you want if you've got a big enough printer. But
Yes.
technically,
I was going to say, if you got to have a whopper of a printer for that one.
yeah. Technically, what we're saying we're supporting is 28 mils. So, because the thing is, when we get a campaign, we get people, they want all kinds of support. But the ship's primarily designed for FDM. We'll probably support, officially with the page write-ups I've been doing, I've been saying like we won't support SLA, but really we're supporting it more than we ever have, in the sense that this time we know some of the challenges that have occurred with it, and can take that a little bit into consideration.
There's a question about being kits there.
Yeah, exactly. It's about what's practical, but I also recognize and realize that we have to support SLA printers a little bit more now because A, the miniatures are more likely to be made in SLA printers, and B, a lot more SLA printers are available, and then C, if you do scale down to 15 mil, you may want to. I mean, resin's still expensive, but 600 mils of resin is a lot different than 2.5 liters or 3 liters of resin.
So Blast, yeah, the lighting kits on fiber optics. I just haven't used fiber optics because we haven't had time to do a more elaborate lighting option for some of these ships because we have to get the prints made before I can modify them to do stuff. So Ben kind of focused on getting the back end done this time so I could do the engine lighting kits while he was still making the rest of the ship, which basically worked more efficiently. So we're still refining our process, and I did put a more complicated lighting kit together this time because it has the flashing for.
Yeah. I think, by the way, we should maybe read out these questions so that people that maybe don't have access to the chat on YouTube
Sorry.
can.
Another question for both Ben and Zornimer with lighting kits. Have you considered going really elaborate and working with fiber optics for effects?
That was the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, and it's more a question of when it's practical, and I'm usually the bottleneck with this, not Zoroma, just so you guys know.
Constantly. That's okay. I have to. One of the requirements is we have to make sure the lighting kits are idiot proof so that they're easy to install. So one of the big requirements is that we try to make sure that we're doing is that there's not any soldering or more complicated fiddly bits that have to be put in or worked with somebody, so that it's really easy to assemble and to pop in place. And that I have worked hard and diligently to make it so that anybody with no skill at all can put the lighting kits in and install them.
And that will be tested in the coming days when the ship comes.
Well, you see the lighting kit earlier blasted? We showed it off. I don't know if you saw it.
I could just
There's
flick it
one
on
over there now.
again. I don't dare look straight into its eyes. I'm looking at the screen instead. But yeah, it's nice and bright this time around. I wasn't happy with the brightness last time because of the engine size. On we actually had to put a bicycle light underneath the engine section of the Sleipnir to make it look brighter than it was.
I had it brighter this time, so I said, "Okie dokie."
So yeah, we'll see. We always run into issues when we actually get to the stage where we're on set. So we know there's going to be issues, but that will not be one of them this time round. Let's see, what is all that? Is that shelf space? Alright, so I'm just bringing the wall back here. So we're basically repurposing existing parts. And this is the brilliant thing about building up a huge library of pieces. Is that you can, repurpose a lot of them to move them into new parts of the ship, for example. Or just to, keep things thematic. Like, for example, this kitchenette, it started its life as the Sleipnir's galley. And, yeah, it was done by Mikkel, who was an intern here, who's actually doing the our version of the rover. Sorry, not the rover, the God, what's it called? Airaft. Actually, why don't we import in the Airaft as it is right now? Because you guys haven't seen it, I don't think, or at least not in Maya. Let's see, let me get this all together, because... Hang on a sec. That is Mikitron on the Discord, by the way. Let's see, I want to get that. I want to get that. This is the most recent version, so I just want to... I'm putting it into the folder system, if I have the folder system. Oh, my other screen's got my D&D stuff. Lovely.
Hybrid miniature that one of the members did is pretty nice looking too.
What was that, sorry?
I was saying the hybrid miniature that one of the members on the Discord.
We might get that integrated. I still have to... Oh, well, that is actually our dedicated buddy here, that blasted Summerflange that did the Hiver. We do need to talk, I think.
That's why I brought it up.
Okay. I'm just like, wait, he's here. He's like the only guy that's talking to us. Oh, wait, is that why you have an ulterior motive? Alright, let's see. I'm just going to put this in production, and then we're going to put this in... Oh, you guys can't see this, I guess. You're just seeing the zip file. Airaft. Alright. So that should be everything. And then we should assemble this. Okay, so I'm going to drop these in. Did they come in? Let's see. They should be here somewhere. And there they are, down the bottom. Alright, so I just need to pick the names of this in Maya, and we're going to move them over to the side. So it would be all this raft stuff, I imagine. So let's move... First of all, let's group this. And the reason I want to group it is because then we can move the whole group later. And it's zeroed in on the 0 point. So, air raft. So this is a 2-seater version. We will have a 4-seater version as a possibility. This is a bit rough because you're looking at the Jeez, there's a fucking fly here that's annoying the shit out of me. Oh, it all came in as one. There you go. We don't even have to move it. But there are a few... Oh, okay, there's a few extra pieces there, so... Alright, that seems to be like an alternative version. Is there an alternative version of that too yet? Alright. So let's hide these ones, which are a little less... There we go. So we've got the enclosed aircraft version. So for the non-enclosed version, you basically just ditch this and possibly the back. So it's a two-seater. We are going to do a four-seater version and a tray-back version. So there's another one where the front's a little bit more snubby. But yeah, like let's replace the... I don't want to say shitty, but wait, why is that up there? Oh, I moved
Stock.
it.
Stock, isn't the word stock?
Stock, yeah.
The stock pink one.
The stock pink. Well, let's call it that. Let's be generous. I mean, this is also a two-seater, so that's kind of like where... I know the four-seater is probably actually what people would consider stock. Hope this fits. This is a little bit bigger, as you can see, but this is also designed to look like it could actually fit the miniatures. And so what I really want to do now is kill the reference, but the reference is probably inside this reference. So I'm going to open a second copy of Maya. Oh, come on, seriously, mate. You want to die? Almost got him.
He's talking to the fly.
I was talking to the fly, yeah. So you guys know I'm not just crazy. Now I really do feel like home. I feel like today even my Australian accent's coming a little bit more out than it normally does just because of the heat. This is still nothing though. This is like 42% humidity. That's nothing.
I just heard a sneak peek.
What?
I heard a sneak peek from Charlie.
From oh, music. Oh, he is working.
Yes.
I didn't even know he'd agreed 100%. That's awesome.
It's
Okay,
really
so
nice.
yeah, Charlie does the music. You know that do 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 that some people have been asking about. Yeah, that's his tune. So I think he could be building on that. So I want to get into the production version here. We don't need to save because this is an empty scene. By the way, guys, if you're shy and in the chat, feel free to ask questions, be they about the ship, Maya, Traveler, lighting, ways to torture Albin. There's lots of things that we could consider. So yeah, don't be shy. Bit of a personal question, but feel free not to answer. But is Second Dynasty a full-time career now for you? Yes, it's been a full-time career for me since I started the company. Well, technically in 2016, but it's been doing 100% just this since 2018. So yeah, this is my third year. And 2018, the end. Oh, yeah, about October or September of 2018. That's when I incorporated. I did have a sole tradership, and yeah, the sole focus has been on this business. So yeah, not only is it not a hobby, but you know, I have employees now, or at least on a project basis. But yeah, after this campaign, Albin should be a permanent fixture here, I'm hoping. So you guys have to back so that there's an Albin to make mischief with.
Yes, so you can measure things in Albins.
Well, you know, John has weird standards. Let's see. So we want to go to the reference editor here, and we can see that, ironically, I think it's this T5 Vehicles May thing that has to, because we just got given from Mark a CAD file to import. So what I'm just going to do is go File, and then, actually no, Reference. We want to go to Remove Reference. And it's saying I can't. No namespace matches T5 vehicle bay for render. Could it be that I have to turn it on first? Reference. Remove reference. Remove. Yes, it was a case. So, now I just save this. The reference is saved. I don't need this anymore. So what I just do is, you can see the pink there, right? So if I go to File, Reference Editor, and I just go to Reference, Reload Reference, it's going to reload in the ship, and you should see the pink piece disappear, which it did. So Reference Editor, for people that aren't familiar with Maya, when you have a finished object, say you've got a 3D animated character, and you're a rigger, it's going to go and get animated by the animator, but as a rigger, you do not want the animator to destroy your wonderful rig that took you so many days to create, right? Mm-hmm. So basically one way to lock this is to just reference in the character. So it's a separate file that you can have in your scene, but any changes you make to it do not permanently affect the original. So now that we have our base ship, actually Albin's got the base ship, the production version, imported into his scene as a reference as well. So we have to go into that scene if we want to change something, and I have changed some stuff lately. Basically with the control panels, they're these, let's see if I can get the camera close up. These control panels, right, they go in the engineering section, now have these holes in the bottom. And these holes are about, they're about, I want to say 1.75 millimeters wide, 1.85 millimeters wide. So I remember what else is about 1.75 millimeters wide?
Filament.
Filament. So the idea is that the well, we don't know about that. Anyway, the idea is that you use the filament to lock it in, and then there's holes in the actual floor. So instead of using a clip for delicate areas like this or seats, this is actually an idea that Craig, who is also usually with us on the chat, came up with, where he was, adding swivel chairs and whatnot. This is a way to get those swivel chairs, but also make it easy to use. Ironically, though, people that are using resin printers do not have filament. However, the filament is dirt cheap to get as a sample or whatnot. So, yeah, it's just a way to attach things to the floor without having to use clips, which gets messy. So, yeah, now we can see approximately what this little air raft looks like. You can see that it does take up quite a bit of room. But, this feels better now. It feels like this is what the finished product is more going to look like. So, I guess the only real difference is I almost want to say that you'd want to reverse it in so it's easy to get out, right? Something like that. And then it's not quite centered. Somewhere like that. Yeah, there's really not much room in there, is there? So, yeah.
All you can see is your face.
Fortunately, since it, has anti-gravity essentially, I assume it's quite easy to move around. So you would just literally just push it to the side to get into the storage over there or whatnot. So, or just get into the vehicle and out the other door. So yeah.
All we can see is you.
To answer your question, I guess this is a follow-up to the question whether or not I have this as my full-time career, to the blasted semi-flange. The question is, how satisfying is that? I bet it must be nice. It is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, and I wake up laughing some mornings. So it is quite nice, especially at campaign time when it's like, it's a lot of hard work to get the campaigns done. Like now we've put in definitely over 1,000 hours into this campaign.
Ben.
Yeah.
All we can see is you.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, that's all you need to see.
There you go.
Yeah, we've put in a good 1,000 hours to everything. There's how it fits in the garage, so you can see how tight it is, right? And we can take the lid off again, so you can get, an impression. yeah, it's incredibly satisfying, but it's very rewarding at campaign time where you get the validation that people actually believe in your work. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that phase, but also feeling rather confident because I'm very proud of the way that the ship has come out. Both the oh, there's a double piece of geometry that we need to get rid of, but still. Um, both with my own work, but also what Albin's been able to achieve. You know, he got a lot of the machinery together and other bits and pieces, and I know that give him another 6 months to a year, and he'll be making pieces pretty much at the same quality that I can make. So yeah,
I'm happy with my light work too. It's nice. This is nice, and going through the testing and stuff for the lights and messing with it. I'm retired as a person from general workflow, so it's nice to work this as a not just a hobby, but a profession, helping Ben out and working with him to do all the electronics and stuff.
It's nice to get help with those sections that I'm not so confident with as well. We may need to make that a slight bit wider too because it's going in. We'll see. Anyway, we're only got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to try and get this sort of accommodated. I've moved it over a tiny bit, but you can kind of see it doesn't quite line up there, so I want to get that to line up right. Let's see. We can move the whole thing. So, we lost. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was the Maya thing. My bad. Maya bad. I have a love-hate relationship with Maya.
Yeah. Everyone does.
Albin said everyone does. So yeah, it is kind of just a step up from Adobe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not quite as bad as Adobe, but in the sense that Adobe's just checking in at this point. They're just cashing checks.
Yeah.
Every version of Photoshop or After Effects that they put out seems to be worse somehow than the one that came before it.
But they have new splash screens though.
They do have new splash screens. So yeah, just a simple modification like that. We don't have the flooring in at the moment, and you can see that this is way off. This is where the table would go in. So I probably want to align that a little bit, but let's just grab one of the tables, maybe the one that's out already, so we can get a good. Oh, what's going on there? Oh, okay, that's an interesting grouping. What about this? This is all one piece, so let's take that. And I need to get this onto the grid again. So basically, yeah, I'm just trying to position where we want to put the table. So this would just be like a little kitchenette. You probably really don't want to put the table down until dinner time because it's going to be very cramped. So this is where it would be if we were doing it separate, and I need to move this pivot point down, but I think I can make the point just by moving it somewhat by eye, and then just we twist it down. You can see that's way off, but you get the impression about where things are. This would be from this wall to that wall. You're probably looking at about 2.8 meters, I'd say. So it's quite narrow, but in real life, not that small. Not that small. And we've got the important basics here. You've got, your microwaves and food storage and pantry, sink, and the all-important coffee machine.
Whoa.
I was pointed at, I think, and asked to ask you about a mini for SLA, meaning small combat mini, the small complete ship. mini, I think.
Yeah. Basically, we are going to do those, but it will not be this campaign. Um, where because I think what we'll do as a part of the next campaign is we'll have miniatures for most of the iconic ships in Traveller. Um, but that's going to take a fair bit of time to sort of do. Um, there have been some people from the community that have reached out. I've just that have offered some of their models and whatnot. Feel a bit iffy about that. Um, so I've got to keep them, and it might not work for my purposes. But yeah, we will have a version that is a tactical miniature, um, and we'll probably do a line of them where it's like they fit to a. Is tactical combat in Traveller in hexes? Or just no, it's abstract, isn't it? In any case, we'll have something that you can stick down on a grid um, at that scale. It it might turn up as a surprise, just a low poly sort of like version. I am working with John. This is something that we might actually develop now that deck designers reach maturity. We had been working on a technology to make deck designer actually take what's on your screen and create a basically just take all of the outside pieces and then glue them all together back into one mesh, essentially creating a miniature. But that would not be a technology we're willing to make commercially available, at least not at the moment, because that would allow you to create a printable STL, and that could be manipulated, unfortunately, into letting people print out entire parts potentially. So
Last
circumnavigating.
got another question for you.
Sorry.
Last has another question for you.
Right. With making all these ships, have you ever considered making your own game, as in your own RPG or other tabletop campaign? Game. I've been creating ships or sketching them since I was about 10. My first ever computer game was an SSI, one of the old SSI games called Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. And that greatly influenced me because in that it's very retro rocket ships and that sort of thing. A very pulpy sort of, but still basically advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules. But you had a rocket ship that was like 200 tons, and you could take on larger rocket ships, and you could board those rocket ships and take control of them, and then for some reason you could take your 200-ton ship or 500-ton ship, take over a 1,500-ton ship, and then it became salvage. And I was very upset by this as a 10-year-old, and thought that you should be able to own the larger ship instead if you wanted to run that. I wasn't really thinking about your crew and the fact that you need more people to run it or not, but which I think was maybe where the limitation was there in the first place. Point of the matter is that stuck with me, and actually the Scout Ship Beta was from a design for a turn-based game that I had made, because when I left my my last company, which was doing medical visualization, and sold my shares in that because I didn't want to do medical visualization for the rest of my life. I didn't know if I'd go into games or freelance animation, or I was doing a lot of advertising. And one of the things that was on my plate when I had a budget to work with was turn-based game where you basically started with a tiny little patrol boat or something like that, and you could go out as a space privateer, and it was had a very Yamato sort of stylization and feeling. So you would take your ship out and privateer, and you could basically do that where you could take on larger ships, take them over, and then keep the hulls and basically build up your own privateer fleet, choosing which flagship you wanted to fly around in and whatnot. So this Scout Ship Beta was actually one of the smallest ships, I believe, in that, and so I reused that design after the Shuttle Alpha was so successful. Hopefully that answers your question. I have thought about it. The problem I run into is I hate programming. John likes it a lot more, but I also know that game would have been larger in scope to make it work, unless you
I
made
think
it.
he's talking more in a paper and pen type of game.
I know you could do a pen and paper style instead. Yes, I have, but at the end of the day, it's like this takes up a lot of my creative juices, and it's hard to be creative. Like I found the more and more work that I put into this company, the less creative juices I have left over. For example, for running D&D games and being creative, like I don't feel on top of my game anymore creatively because you exhaust your batteries, right? I need to recharge them. So, yeah. The answer is yes, and in fact, during the 2000s, I had produced a number of role playing supplements under the open game license back in 3.5, I think it was. But yeah, there was not a ton of market there at that time, so that's where I am. But even as a hobby, like the last couple of days, I've been going home and I got a new Wake on board, and I've been making some top-down sketches for my D&D games and that. So I do enjoy playing from time to time. I just don't have the energy at 41 anymore to sort of like be confidently create something that would be up to the level that I would want it to be to actually publish. All right, so we've got this little kitchen sort of section now. We'll need to move the floor a little bit, so this is just straight over. But I think that's fairly proportional. Maybe a tad little to the left here. But yeah, I think this is a good spot to round things off, since it is literally 10 minutes after I said we've only got about 10 minutes left of the session. I think this was a little bit more of a behind-the-scenes session than actually practically getting too much done. But hopefully you guys feel like a lot of work has happened since last week and are getting excited. We've only got about 2.5 weeks left, if everything comes. So yeah, we just need the model to come. Mika has a great diorama on its way. We actually have 3 or 4 reviewers this time that are getting their hands on the ship early, and I'm excited for the fact that you guys too will potentially be able to get the ship printed and painted by the time the campaign's even over. So that's going to be a nice, interesting development, and we'll see how it goes financially for us. So hopefully better than ever, which is the way I'd want it to go, considering the fact that we've gone and Zorimus helped us get the traveler license with Mark. So anything else you want to say today, Zorima?
Yeah, let me post links again.
Sure. So I'll ramble on for a little longer while you do that.
Yes.
ramble. Right. So yeah. We probably will have a preview link for the campaign. I would say as early as next week, because the 23rd is when it should be 2 weeks to campaign time. We want to wait until all you guys over in the US have had a couple of days to recover from your hangover, so you don't regret your purchases. We're not evil. If we were really evil, we'd put it on, July 4th, and then you would have regrets on the Monday. Is that a day off for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, you'd want it to be. Like, it took me forever to figure out why Swedes were celebrating stuff like Easter on the eve before Easter, like on Easter Saturday. It's like, Jesus is dead. How does that make sense? And it's like, it's about the hangovers.
It's because it used to be a fertility day. Right, back in the old days.
It probably is. It's partially that, yes, but in any case, the links are up. We have some links to my Mini Factory page, the seconddynasty.com, and then of course both my Discord channel, which is more focused on my work, and then Zorimus channel, which is more based on support, but also a great resource for people trying to get into sculpting or making stuff for 3D printing and painting, right? So
And painting. And we do a giveaway once a month, once or twice a month too, as well, for artists' work, stuff that they've done, or give away filament, odds and ends, changes every month.
yeah, but yeah, check it out. All right, guys, we should be back. Wait, no, it's Midsummer next Friday,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I think so.
So yeah, it's a national holiday here on Fridays, so
National Drinking Day.
National Drinking Day, from a social distance. So yeah, I should be fairly pissed by the time we would get to 3 o'clock on a Saturday. So I don't think we'll have a stream then. We're gonna have quite an intensive week next week, depending on whether or not the model comes in time. What I might do is see if we can. Maybe we can live stream some behind the scenes stuff. That would be quite late at night here. So maybe that would actually work better for you guys in the US.
It'd be really awesome to do that.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll try and get that set up, but I need to talk to the guys about that and see if they're cool with it and whatnot. So, yeah,
Okay.
we'll see. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us, and hopefully, stay tuned. We'll be back in within the next week with something at least. So, all right, bye, guys.
Take care.